have gotten a lot of work done in the past couple of weeks.
Original color. Original color.
We've moved our boat to its more permanent location. We've got a container and we've wired it for lights. All right, smoke test.
All right, moment of truth. See if our lights work.
Hey. And we started moving our tools here. The boat is level and we've checked it with the laser. We've got all of our materials ordered and the resin ordered and the glass ordered. Tomorrow we've got a team of people coming in to start working on the lamination. And so the last thing we have to do is get the laser level back out again and start marking up where all the bulkheads are gonna go, where all the stringers are gonna go, where all the ribs are gonna go. We have the whole boat modeled in the iPad, but it's a model and this is real life. And so we're gonna try to convert what's been done in the model into real life and hopefully it all lines up. We're only like 3 or 4 millimeters off center, port to starboard. Fore and aft is like a little bit harder to check because we're basing that off the water line and the factory water line, and we don't want our boat to sit on the factory water line anyway, so we're sort of just guesstimating where our new water line we want it to be, but it's less important because the boat's constantly being adjusted fore and aft depending on where our weight is and stuff anyway. So I think we have a good foundation. So now it's time to get some Sharpies, get the iPad and a tape measure, and start marking up where all the bulkheads are going to go. This bulkhead was in the way of our laser level, so I shouldn't even call these bulkheads glorified piece of furniture. So we just wiggled it out like a loose tooth. Now we can see the whole laser level. We are as lined up, I think, as we can be. It's all within, 3 or 4 millimeters of each other. So we're gonna take some Sharpies and we're gonna just draw a line in the middle of the boat. That's gonna be our reference line that we can use for everything moving forward. So the main bulkhead, although we're redoing it, is going to be in the same position because that's directly perpendicular to our mast, and that seems to be a good place to put a bulkhead. So we're going to be using it as a reference point because every single other thing in the boat is going to be in a different position. So we're gonna start by measuring this bulkhead and then measure the ribs and the bulkheads and stuff moving aft and forward. This is gonna be like our baseline reference point. Someone's gonna be so strong. All right, good morning guys. Today's a pretty exciting day because today we have a whole
team of people coming in to get started on glassing in our whole new hull inside our old hull. It's going to be a huge project, and it's going to start with a bit more grinding and prepping and cleaning, and we're going to be cutting the knees out because the chain plates are out now, just doing a really good job prepping all of the raw glass. And then we're going to be putting in the foam for the ribs and stringers, and then they're going to start glassing in over top of that. We decided to go with a hand-laid glass because a project like this, it doesn't really make sense to vacuum infuse it, even though it will be kind of fun. But we're only putting 2 layers of glass on the whole hull, 3 layers on the ribs, 3 layers on the bulkheads, and the process is just going to be easier and faster if it's just hand laid. There's the potential, because our hull's a little bit flexible, that if we vacuumed it, the negative pressure on one side could actually deform the hull a little bit, and so we decided not to risk it and not to try to vacuum it, even if it would be kind of fun and kind of cool. But I've got one more bulkhead to mark this morning before the guys show up, so I'm going to crawl into the boat and then walk you through why we decided to put ribs in the boat rather than just glassing in foam for the whole hull. This is it. This is the last time it's going to look this empty in here. I'm really excited to have this classwork finally get started. It's been a long time in the making. We've been consulting a whole team of experts and mentors and people we trust in the boat building industry to try to figure out just how much structure we should or shouldn't be putting back in UMA, because everything's a balance and it's hard to get it right, especially after the boat's been designed and built 50 years ago. We don't want to put in too much structure. We don't want to make the boat too stiff because fiberglass needs to flex and sailboats need to flex, but we definitely need to stiffen up the boat a lot more than what they did originally, because this boat was never designed to do what we're doing with it, but also it just wasn't built very well. And so after a lot of back and forth and a lot of designs and a lot of sketches and a lot of math, a lot of engineering, what we've decided to go for is 8 ribs along the hull at strategic points and places where we can sort of hide them inside of the cabinetry. There's going to be 2 main bulkheads, one at the front of the cockpit and then the main bulkhead where the mast is. Underneath the V-berth, we're also going to be putting in 2 half bulkheads because we're not going to have the ribs running up the sides of the V-berth because we sleep there and it would be uncomfortable to have, you know, a big rectangular rib digging into the side of you while you sleep. They're not evenly spaced, but they're spaced well enough that they're going to supply enough rigidity to the hull that it should basically provide all the structure that the boat needs between those 2 bulkheads and the ribs. And then everything that we'll do after, all the cabinetry, we'll still be glassing that to the hull just to make sure that it doesn't move and it doesn't squeak. But the cabinetry we're going to be installing in like the galley and the nook area and the desk and the hanging locker and everything, all of that cabinetry isn't technically structural. It's going to help stiffen up the boat. It's going to help support the deck. It's going to help make sure nothing squeaks and moves too much. But the structure is coming from the ribs and the 2 main bulkheads. So down the storage unit, we have a big 200-liter drum of resin. I don't even know how many kilos of fiberglass. And with this much glass and this much resin and this much structure and this much on the line to get it right, it's why we're having help from a crew. I've got one more bulkhead to measure in the cockpit where we're moving the galley bulkhead aft a little bit. Even though we're building the galley out, we're gonna have a little bit of space between the 2. So I'm gonna crawl in there and get that marked up before the guys show up, and then we'll be done. We're just gonna kick back, relax, and chill for 2 weeks. No, kidding. We have a ton more work to do, even though we can't do it on the boat. So this bulkhead, that was our galley bulkhead. We're replacing the entire thing because it's all just like patchworked together. And we're gonna move it back to the forward edge of our cockpit basin for a couple of reasons. One, this space up here. This space, completely useless. We tried putting electronics in there, but it's just such a pain in the ass to access that it's just such a useless space.
Oh, it's like boat yoga. Ouch.
Second reason is our travelers up there,
And moving the bulkhead to directly underneath the Traveler means that the Traveler is going to have a lot more structure to pull against. This bulkhead squeaks a lot because the top isn't glassed, so while we're sailing it just slides back and forth on the deck. It also means that these scupper drains coming out of the cockpit, these cockpit drains, will have something solid to be attached to. You can kind of see this is the top of our ocean vault right here, and this bulkhead comes down right in the middle of it. So by moving it backwards, we'll be able to make a watertight bulkhead here. So if our rudder ever leaks, or if we ever lose our rudder, or it gets damaged, or if any of these cockpit drains or anything leak, all that water stays aft, so it's only going to flood, you know, the bottom 30-40 centimeters of the bilge, and we'll put a bilge pump back here, and that way that will be watertight. The rudder post will be watertight. Forward from that bulkhead to where the forward side of the galley is going to be installed, that will also be pseudo watertight, as in the bulkhead will go above the waterline. So if for some reason the ocean vault ever leaks or that gets damaged, it's only going to flood, you know, 100 liters of water or something into our boat, and it's just going to fill up this little space right here because our water line is about here. Forward of that will be the bilge, and then forward of that into the V-berth, that will all be watertight as well. So we're separating our boat into sections, and moving this bulkhead is one of the ways we're going to be able to do that, because we'll be able to isolate the ocean vault in between two watertight bulkheads. This one is just going to be eyeballed. There's no real measurement to where it needs to go. It just needs to line up to the front edge of this cockpit basin. So I'm going to mark that, and then after that we'll be done, and then the guys can start grinding and prepping and getting the show on the road. Now we just need to figure out if I want to put the bulkhead down here or I want to put it in the front. I think I kind of want to put it in the front. Problem is the leading side of our cockpit basin is angled, and so if we put a bulkhead in front of it, there's going to be a little bit of a gap behind it, which maybe we can fill with like foam or something like that. I think we're going to put it in front. All right. Yeah. The tricky part is trying to like mark it without getting in the way of the laser. That's it. Last bulkhead marked. Now to get out of the way and let the professionals take over.
How's it feel to not be grinding fiberglass right now?
It feels less itchy. I think we've done our share of fiberglassing and grinding, so I'm totally okay not doing this one. We're still doing quite a lot of work, and I think this is probably in 10 years the third big project that we've hired somebody to do. The first one was, I think, the Dodger. The second one was the stainless, so the pulpit and the solar arch. And then, yeah, this third one is grinding fiberglass, because we've done most of the grinding, and I am happy to not be itchy for a little while. I'm just really excited to get to the fun part, which is going to be the building part, getting the things that we've been designing on the iPad and on paper onto reality. Everything before that is just grinding and the structural part. Yeah, I'm happy that these guys get to do it this time. Although, it's one thing that makes me a little bit nervous is like the sound of the work they're doing inside, because I think partially because I don't know what they're doing. So you hear like the ripping and then the hammering and then the grinding. But yeah, they're professionals, so I know they're doing a good job. It's just It's just a little, my heart is beating fast when I hear those crunching sounds.
Well, they are almost done removing every bit of fiberglass that we possibly can before we start glassing back in the new structure. This is the last bits of it. We got the knees down here. This is what was causing us all the issue, because down here at the base they were delaminating from the hull most of the way up. They're able to just take them off with a crowbar and a hammer, just rip them apart. So there's actually a lot of voids in here, which is kind of sketchy. But yeah, so the grinding and prepping to put the ribs in is almost done. And then we get to start actually putting stuff back into the boat for the first time in a year.